What is the best golf simulator computer? Now that's a question I hear all of the time, and there's not a simple answer. It really is going to depend on your home golf simulator or commercial golf simulator setup. Maybe it's your budget, maybe it's the different type of resolution or components you're using, such as swing cameras. This video is going to help you a lot. So first of all, what do I have in this box? This is a SurfThing custom golf simulator computer. So we're going to go over what makes this computer so special and what SurfThing can do to help you on your search for the best golf simulator computer. So first thing to note, these guys were nice enough to send this 5080 series computer to us for review. I'm really impressed so far with everything. I mean, I've known these guys for quite a while. Several of my vendors actually use them to package with their custom golf simulator, whether it be home packages or commercial packages. And there's just so much that these guys do that stand apart from the rest. So first thing first, let's open this thing up and just kind of show you what we're talking about. So I already kind of cut some of the tape just to get a little sneak preview of what was inside. And the very first thing that I'm going to note is how everything is custom SurfThing. So these guys are really one of a kind. So if you notice when you look inside the box, right out of the gate, what are you seeing? Well, you're seeing SurfThing branded components inside. So you have an accessories box and then a wireless mouse and keyboard box. So I'm going to go ahead and set this down and just kind of show you what's inside the accessories box. So all custom SurfThing. This is really cool and very nicely packaged as well. Obviously very important to have, you know, all of this protected. So first thing first, you're going to have a product warranty and quick setup guide. Really nice that they kind of have a diagram of this exact PC showing you all the different plugs and what needs to go into each, and then an included DisplayPort to HDMI cable. So this is a 2.1 8K 60 hertz capable cable, and it's important that they include that because a lot of times if someone's running multiple monitors, they might not have a display port to HDMI, especially when they're going to a monitor or touch screen and then also up to a projector. So it's really nice that they include that. And I'm going to go over a full list of details here in a second. I'm just going to kind of give you guys a brief overview as we do an unpackaging here or unboxing. So they do include all of the accessory cables that you might use or you might not use. So these, PCI cables, room for expansion. And we'll talk about expansion and what's included here in just a second. Very nice, thick power cable that you're going to get proper resistance from because these computers are going to pull some power. Especially, they have different models. Starts with a 5060, goes all the way up to a 5080, and they even have a laptop model as well. This particular PC is a 5080. And for someone like me that runs a 4K touchscreen, 4K projector, I'm running a third monitor, I'm doing OBS recording to get all of my different cameras. We're talking swing cameras and everything. It's really important that I have a powerful PC like this, and one that I know is going to leave room for future expansion as things really progress. As we all know, 4K has kind of come out of the woodwork here and starting to take over as it becomes more and more affordable is what I've noticed, that a lot of people are now jumping into the 4K space because they found that projectors are coming down in price. 4K projectors used to be crazy expensive, and I feel like projector companies, whether it be places like Epson, BenQ, I've covered some of those brands, they're really starting to narrow in specifically for golf simulators and going 4K and things. So look at this, everything is SurfThing branded. And that's what sets these guys apart. They specialize in golf simulator computers. So I just want to make sure that you understand that, and you can visit their website or reach out to me direct, and I'm happy to, kind of connect you guys with them if you answer questions, whatever it may be. Now check this out. SurfThing branded keyboard, that is very nice. So, that quality touch. So they're not sending some little cheap, clicky keyboard that is going to fall apart. This is a keyboard that you're going to want to use. And then check this out. So wireless mouse, not wired, including a wireless mouse, once again, branded SurfThing. So, and they even include, wow, not cheap batteries. They include Duracell batteries. So wireless keyboard, wireless mouse with batteries included. That's impressive. And like I said, this is the difference. And I'm not here to tell you that SurfThing is the lowest price computer on the market. If you are super, budget, sought after, where you're trying to find the lowest price available, I'm not saying that you can't go out there and, either build your own or do something where you're going to get lower price. But the amount of people that reach out to me that want quality, they don't want to end up with something that's not going to be compatible or work with their setup, and especially my guys that are looking for support. So that's really what's going to stand these guys apart. First thing I want to do is get the computer up here on the table, and then what we'll do is go over some of the details and specs that I have as well as we're looking at everything. So I will tell you, I love that the packaging is just really well done. So easy to get out of here. I'm going to put it facing the glass first, because I just think that it's nice that they put it inside of a case where you can actually show off what's inside. So we'll actually take this off right now. Nice tempered glass. And you can see inside of there a PNY 5080 NVIDIA graphics card. And look at that, it's even SurfThing inside of the CPU cooler. So just really, really impressive. Let's go over specs to start off. Then I'm going to go dive into a little more about SurfThing and what sets them apart. Then we're going to connect this and do benchmarking. You got to stay tuned for the benchmarking. We're going to put this thing up against 4K. We're going to test all the various software. So first thing first. So let's go over this particular computer's specs. So this is the SG3-5802. So this is going to be their 4K resolution based computer that's going to be able to handle the high demand games. It's going to be able to handle swing cameras, all of that you're really looking for top end. So it includes an Intel Core Ultra 7 265F liquid cooled CPU, that RTX 5080 GPU, 32 gigs of DDR5 6000 megahertz RAM. It has a 2 terabyte NVMe SSD. That's going to give you that expandability not only to install maybe some base software that you need, but also a high level of courses. We all know that as these courses come out, they're growing in size. I'm seeing a lot of courses, surpass 1 gig. So that's something to keep in mind. They do have a 1000 watt PSU or power supply unit that is actually a gold standard power supply unit. This is one of those things where, if you're looking for, the best golf simulator computer and you find one that's a really cheap price, you might want to look at the details. So someone can make it look flashy with a GPU, for instance. Then you're getting a several generation old CPU. Or maybe you're getting some very basic, low RAM. The PSU that I was just talking about, it could die on you in 12 months because it's a very, very cheap component, PSU that can barely handle what you have inside of there. So there's a lot of things to computers and components, and some people in the marketplace might be an expert. And like I said, they could do a custom build on their own, but the amount of people that want plug and play, they want support, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. These guys have fine-tuned it for the golf simulator space, and I really appreciate that. Wireless communication includes Bluetooth 5.3 along with Wi-Fi 6E. Great to see both connections, the amount of devices that are connecting via not only Wi-Fi but Bluetooth, so it's great. The case dimensions, that's something to point out. I don't know if you're looking at this right now, but this isn't some massive gaming computer that you're not going to be able to fit into a cabinet. And I think that's important. I don't think a lot of people want to have some massive, computer that they can't fit inside of a cabinet, especially in like commercial spaces, desktop units that they're using. So it only is 8 inches wide by just over 14 inches high and 17.8 inches deep. So that is a very realistic case that also looks nice as well. You can kind of show off your components if you want to. As far as ports go, this thing is loaded, and I'm just going to go ahead and turn it around right now so you can look at the back of it, and I'm just going to read them off really quick. And this is going to be very important to note. So on the rear, it's a one-time USB-C Type-C port with Thunderbolt 4. So if you're looking to have Thunderbolt connectivity, it could even be for USB expansion or things along those lines. It does have Thunderbolt capability. That's a little trick sometimes people will do. They'll show USB-C on the back, but it's just a standard like 3.1 US Type-C port. It's not a Thunderbolt port, so it's not maximizing full capability. Lots of little tricks you got to pay attention to, guys. It has 6 USB 3.2 Gen 1 ports, and here is something to pay close attention to. 2 with Ultra USB power. What is that going to do for you? Well, that is going to connect to swing cameras and give you stability. So they actually have their own power rail for those 2 USB ports. That's why I'm telling you, these guys have made a computer specifically, in mind of a golf simulator. I know a lot of coaches that are connecting, cameras, and especially when you're using a high frame rate camera that has high demand of power and speed. This is so important, not only the speed of the port, but the power of the port. So it does have 6 USB 2.0 ports. That's going to give you all kind of expandability as far as normal connecting items that you might need to, whether it be something as simple as a keyboard or something. So it does have a 2.5 gig LAN port. It has 2 Wi-Fi antennas, 1 optical SPDIF out connector. That's an optical like audio connector if you're using this for like a home theater sound. It has 2 audio jacks, and then an additional 1 gig Ethernet LAN card is installed, and I actually did not even think about that. That is amazing. So let's talk about that really quick. So as you can see here, there's your 5080 graphics card, there's your loaded up USB ports, and there's the 2 ultra power USB ports. So your standard 2.0s are here, then you've got your high speeds, and then you've got your ultra powers right there. There's your Thunderbolt port, and your onboard HDMI you're not going to use. You're going to use it right out of your 5080, but it's a 2.5 gig Ethernet port here that you can run to internet, let's say, right? Well, most of these ceiling mounted units, like you see here, this is actually my Pro TV VX build. It actually wants to be on an onboard Ethernet port. They don't really like dongles. I'm not saying they can work, but most of the time the dongle needs to be for internet. Well, guess what? You don't have to worry about dongles and plugging into ports. It's going to give you that expandability standard in this model. So that's really awesome to see that. So let's spin around to the front really quick. I don't think I missed anything on the back. You can see your dual antennas there. Everything's very, very standard overall that you guys should be able to figure out. As always, if you had questions, you're buying something like this, email me. It's in the description and pinned to the top of the comments. Love to help you out. So just a simple little button there on the front. You also have a high-speed USB-A port, and then you also have another USB-C port, and then you also have another audio jack on the front. So a lot of different options. Guys might be using headphones. You might want more expandability on the front for some little USB ports for something simple. But overall, when we look at this, I just like how clean it is. We'll take a look at the bottom really quick just so you guys can kind of get an idea of what's on the bottom. That's all cooling. So it does have kind of like a filter on the bottom for cooling. And then I want to say, while we have it here, most of these are magnetic now. This one is magnetic. So we're kind of going on the fly here. You can see right inside. That's so cool that the CPU cooler is branded SurfThing. So really, really cool. And I'll do maybe just some B-roll for you guys once we have it plugged in and up and running. But you can see vented from the top for the CPU cooler. Obviously that venting on the bottom, so plenty of cooling. Another fan here, pulling air through the cabinet. You want a lot of airflow on these. So it looks like they've picked a really nice chassis here to have everything, properly cooled. At the same time, a smaller format that looks nice. You're going to be proud of it. So let's do this. Let's talk really quick about some other things that I might have skipped over that just have to do with them in particular as a company that I think is important. And then we're going to go ahead and connect to the computer, and we're going to do some benchmarking for you guys. So went over all those specifics. Now, they do have different models I talked about. Starts with a 5060 model. That's their 5602. So that comes with an RTX 5060, 16 gigs of RAM, a 1 terabyte hard drive. So just a little bit different, nothing crazy. That's an Ultra 5 CPU. You can step up to the 5702 model, where that was designed for just a little higher level and some base 4K. That's going to be an Ultra 5 with an RTX 5070, 32 gigs of RAM, 2 terabyte hard drive. So I think that's actually going to fit quite a few people, believe it or not, especially as games become more efficient. It's kind of impressive what I can see that will run 4K. What I'm going to recommend to most people if they're running dual 4K, and especially with some of the higher demand software, is probably this 5702 Ti. So this is going to include an Ultra 5 processor, 57 Ti GPU, and a 32 gig of RAM, 2 terabyte hard drive, and then pretty much all the standard. I've noticed that the ports, I think, are standard across all of them. I'll double check, but from what I can see, you're gonna get the same ports across all models, which is pretty cool. But this unit here, being the 5802, is just kind of bulletproof. It's gonna future-proof you, especially if you're, like I said, you're running cameras and you're doing recording and everything, such as myself. So real quick, let's just talk about the company. So what stands them apart? They will pre-install your software. They'll even activate licenses for you. And that's something that's just really nice. So whatever software you plan on running, they'll pre-install it. You can even give them your license keys. They'll activate them. So when this unit shows up, you can literally plug it in and you're good to go. That's very impressive that they'll do that. And that's kind of why they've been known to partner with so many companies out there. And that's something that I'll talk about here in a second. The system is designed to run 24/7. And why did they do that? Well, that's because they have them in simulator bays across the nation. They support and manage more than 2,500 simulator bays in retail stores nationwide. These guys are no joke. I mean, they have come out to be the specialists in as far as golf simulator computer, just specialized units. It's really, really cool. So they're knowledgeable, obviously, because they know all of the software already. So if you reach out for support, and let's say it's a software item that you might have a setting wrong, well, they know the software. They're not just going to say, well, that's not our computer, call someone. They're going to help you out, which is really, really important. So, and all the hardware and everything and software is tested before it's sent out. So they're gonna install that specific software and they're gonna test it on this specific computer to make sure it's gonna do what you wanted. So specific settings in both Windows and graphics cards are already changed to give the best performance. So you have to worry about going in there and watching how-to videos, even though I have some of those on changing the settings. It's already done for you. No bloatware. I think that's really important to consider. I mean, a lot of these computers now, I mean, they're just coming with, this free software and free this and pop-ups, out of the gate. No one wants that. They've done none of that. So it's just really nice to have a clean computer too. Another thing to be careful of. They are partnered with many of the major launch monitor companies, and they have that direct communication to make sure that they are already prepared for updates that are coming, and they know that they're going to have compatibility. So and they're also designed to run cool and quiet. So you're not going to overheat. You're not going to have a bunch of noise and coming from the units. That's not what they're designed for. It's a 2-year parts and labor warranty that comes standard with all builds, and I think that covers most of the stuff. I mean, I know that the expansion I touched on, but they have available expansion and add-on cards that are thoroughly tested if you're going to go that way. So let's say you're going to have 4 swing cameras. They're going to be able to have that expandability, not just the standard like I have. If you wanted to run like 4 PoE ports for cameras, they could make a specific computer for, PoE Ethernet ports for cameras if you're going Ethernet on cameras. So they can build custom for you as well, which is really nice. So I think that covers everything for the most part. If I forgot anything, I'll touch on it. What I really want to do is I want to set the computer up. I want to basically get all the software, make sure it's all launched and ready to go, and then do some recording and benchmarking for you guys. So let's step on over and do that. All right, so as you can see, we have the SurfThing Golf Simulator computer all hooked up, and here is the default LED profile. So I actually like this a lot. It's clean, sleek, professional looking. It's a blue LED on all the fans, and then you can see the SurfThing, processor cooler there with their logo. It's just a nice, compact, professional looking design. I figured I'd give you guys just kind of a quick preview of what that looks like. And then we'll head to the desktop. Now, a few things to note here. When you boot this up, it is ready to go. You don't need to go through a Windows setup. You don't need to enter usernames, nothing along those lines. I really appreciated how it was just turn it on and then look, that's the software I asked them to install. So we're gonna do some benchmarking for you guys. I first wanna point out that when you see this little SurfThing support icon, if you need support from them, whatever it may be, you can actually launch that. They have their own remote control software for their technicians to actually be able to remote in. You would give that code to your technician. They're gonna be able to get access to this computer. And just like they stated, they're supporting over 2,500 of these in different golf simulator bays. They're gonna know what they're doing and be able to log in. Now, a couple pieces of software that I would like to show some benchmarking for you guys, GSPro and Trackman. I think we're gonna do like Pro T Labs. And you can see I'm running Ultra. So I wanted to show you guys I'm running Ultra. I wanted to show you these, and then maybe on Labs, because they have the powered ports, I'd be able to show you guys the cameras and just that they're able to work well. So I am using some benchmarking software so you can be able to see the utilization of the GPU percentage, the power draw, the CPU temperature and percentage, the RAM usage, and then also the frames per second that you're getting. Now, the frames per second is something that you should also note on. Every software is different. You're gonna see some interesting things, how Trackman kind of goes into like a sleep state when you're just sitting on the tee box. I actually think it's kind of cool. And then as far as like GSPro, I usually have it set to max at 60. There's no reason to go above 60 because your projector is going to be a 60 hertz projector. I mean, I'm not aware of anyone out there that's running really higher than 60 hertz. It's not necessary. All the high quality ones, that's what you have. I will go into settings really quick and I'll show you that under visual settings, down under, I think it's under camera options, that draw distance is performance impacting. I maxed it out. That's the details it can draw from far in the distance. And I wanted to make sure that was maxed out. So we're putting like kind of the max, taxing on the GPU so you guys can have confidence that when you're running 4K, multiple monitors like I am, and I'm even using recording software on a third monitor. So there's a lot going on here. I think we'll use verified courses. I downloaded a few of them just because I know that they're very well detailed, so we're going to be able to ensure that we have tons of details, such as, whether it be weeds and grasses and trees and everything of high quality detail. That way we know that, this is going to be an environment or course that is going to be showing a true representation of what the computer is able to handle. So pretty quick loading there. I don't think I've loaded Tobacco Road yet, so I thought that was pretty fast. You'll see sitting on the tee box, we have 70% GPU utilization and 211 watts, so not bad whatsoever. Only 15% CPU. That's something for anyone that's not familiar with gaming and everything. A lot of the latest games are it's just GPU intensive. Yes, you need to have a good CPU so it doesn't bottleneck, but there are games out there, take for instance like iRacing. It's a little older architecture. It can have CPU bottlenecks if you don't have really good multi-threading. But in this case, you can see it's all about the GPU, and that's what they focused on with this 5080 series inside of this. RAM utilization, about 12 or 13 gigs out of the 32 available, gives you tons of headroom, and it's just a flat 60 frames a second, no questions asked sitting here on the tee box. What's interesting is all of the software is different. When I'm sitting on the tee box on GSPro, I'm using 70% of the GPU, 60 frames a second. Wait till we head out to Trackman, you're gonna see something totally different. So everyone's a little different. If you're a hardware or software engineer, comment below your thoughts on what you see on different software out there and why everyone treats it a little different. You'll notice that some software, for instance, I'm only using 60% of GPU here, but I am flat out at 60 frames a second, no questions asked. Now, I could unlock the frames per second, as I mentioned, but I don't think that's really necessary because the projector that 99% of people are going to be using is going to be 60 hertz. So it's just not necessary to, overdraw power. I mean, I'll be honest with you, a lot of people, they're not looking to have a higher power bill. You can have these things rocking, at a much higher wattage as well. So let's go ahead and just go to hole number 2. And there's going to be a few things that I do here, like placing a ball in the weeds, because then you have a bunch of grass in front of you. You can see the GPU utilization kind of changes there. I'm gonna go like in the trees. We're gonna do all kinds of stuff just to show, different views that you might, have some different impact as far as GPU utilization goes. So it starts off kind of 0 there once you start flying. I lowered the camera down a little bit. I like it being a little bit lower. If it's too high, I feel like you're just seeing too much sky. So if you think my view is different than what you've seen, that's why. So 60%. Love the low wattage usage, only 200 watts. I mean, it's not even really using much at all here. I mean, it's just cruising along, no questions asked. I mean, I really like what I see so far. So why don't we jump out? There's a couple with water. I want to say like 17, or no, it's not 17. Which one is it? Let's back up a little bit further. Is it 14? Yeah, 14 has water. And then what we'll do is, why don't we move the ball down kind of like in the weeds by the water. So now you kind of have some water, some weeds, everything. I just figured it'd be good to throw the ball in different positions just to make sure that if there are different areas that might be more taxing, more detail, like you're blocked out here by these. I mean, I'm doing some weird stuff on purpose here just so you guys understand. So there you go, there's some weeds, 73%. I mean, I just haven't even seen it tick off of 60 frames a second, during movement or anything along those lines. So there's 17 with some bushes and weeds right in front of you, 18, and we can even go out to a different course as well. Let's go ahead and just do a quick flyover on this. Yeah, you can always see when it like first starts the movement, and then it caps out at 60, but I'm 99% sure that that's absolutely normal for that, because I've seen it across different software. It's kind of like when it's enabling that movement, it's just the initialization almost of like the GPU. But look at this, 60% GPU utilization under 200 watts. And the most impressive part is you can't hear this desktop. I mean, it is absolutely silent. So fans aren't shooting up, for no reason. I've noticed that there's fan profiles out there on some computers that are just so unnecessary. And you can see that we have, 68 to 50 Celsius on the CPU. I mean, just no worries whatsoever. Let's do one more course on GSPro. Let's go to Shadow Ridge. I think this has a good amount of graphics and everything. And when I say I just mean detail. We just want objects, right? You want lots of trees, you want lots of grasses, all those type of things. Obviously a really nice, fast, solid state hard drive is gonna load these courses fast. 2 terabytes is gonna give you plenty of room. Each course being usually around a gig, let's say. And then, here you go. Yeah, because you have those flowers, you have the bridge. This is a really good looking course. This is cool. If you haven't played this, you should check it out. So let's do a flyover here. I mean, I feel like we've just kind of proven at this point, this course is pretty efficient. Look at this, 46% with the flyover with just tons of trees. And you can see a little bit of that kind of rendering on demand. That's something that I feel like a lot of, programmers have been working on, trying to get less of that. I talked about that at the PGA show. The Pro T guys, it'll be interesting to actually do some benchmarking. If you guys want me to benchmark different software, let me know, and I can do that in separate videos, whether it be a short or anything along those lines. But golf course software, they were talking about how they were focused on not having that, kind of render on demand, if you will, where you see objects kind of coming into view as you start to move. And that's usually because they're trying to not make it tax so hard on the GPU. I mean, the headroom you have on a 5080 like this, I mean, look at 47% utilization. I mean, this is a really efficient course overall. And I think that that's really good. If you want to run 4K and you don't need to have a 5080 like this, SurfThing offers that 5070 Ti package, which I think that's a great GPU. It's going to handle 4K across any efficient platform like this with no questions asked. I've ran a 5070 Ti, 4K, duplicated monitors, even a third monitor running, and with that 5070 Ti with no issues whatsoever. All right, let's set up Trackman Virtual Golf 3. All right, so here we are with Trackman Virtual Golf 3 or Trackman Performance software with Virtual Golf 3. I'm gonna use Pebble Beach, and there's a reason for it. Pebble Beach is just such a well-done course with so many textures and buildings and water and everything. When you have all of those objects out there, it's just gonna make a difference. Now, when I first loaded this, I will tell you, look how fast it loads. So I think that it's fantastic to see that it loads really fast. You obviously have, quality components inside the computer that are gonna speed that up. Now, here's where things get different. Now notice Trackman's using 99% of the GPU, 290 watts, just on a static menu like this. So it's very differently designed, 128 frames a second, even though we really don't have any movement. Let's go ahead and just go to hole number 1. You'll see there's kind of like an overhead drone that goes down. You're averaging 90 to 100 frames a second, but then it takes the GPU utilization all the way down to about 35% because it's sitting at 30 frames per second when you're on the tee box. Now this is a different approach. So like I said, if you're a hardware engineer or software engineer and you want to elaborate on this and these different approaches that these software have, please do. I'm not an engineer by any means, so I just kind of understand this stuff quite well, but not incredibly well by any means. But I'm just doing my best on my knowledge base. But I think it's a cool approach. The Trackman I/O does offboard processing, so it does utilize the GPU, and so I think that they're trying to just kind of save you power, save you heat, everything along those lines when you're just sitting on the tee box without much movement. Now, when I go to a hole preview, it's instantly going to jump up and it's going to uncap the FPS, and you're going to see it averaging around 120 frames a second. Once again, like I said, you don't really need the 120. Being at 60 is fine, but you can't cap the FPS inside of Trackman's software settings. It wants to control that on its own. So you can see, even though I'm sitting on a static image right now, it's still going to leave that because it's during the whole flyover. So we can move the ball around a little bit. Let's go ahead and place the ball behind some trees. Let's say you hit your drive over here behind some trees. You can see now that we're sitting here, and I can just take that and move it down. With the movement in the grass and everything else, it actually has me utilizing the GPU again, 77 frames per second. So nothing crazy, but 77 frames per second. And let's say that I wanted to do kind of like a green view. It's going to jump right up to that 100 plus frames per second, and it's going to have smooth motion all the way through. So definitely a different approach here. Let's go ahead and, oh, you know what? I was actually still in my movement. So look, when you actually place the ball, it is going to drop it down to 30. So even though I'm in the weeds, there's a little bit of movement in those grasses and everything, it's actually going to drop down to 30. So misspoke there just a little bit. Glad we caught that. Now let's just go ahead and maybe we'll go out to this par 4 because there's tons of water. There's trees on the, the tee box, but it's not going to matter when you're just sitting there. Let's go ahead and go to a hole preview. And you can see that this is just having no issues whatsoever. It's just drawing more power, but you can see you're using a little more RAM, 15 to 16 gigs of RAM out of the 32 gigs that are available. CPU is just, cruising along, 30% utilization and cool, sub 60 Celsius. And once again, no spooling out of the fans. I'm not getting anything weird going on where it's either loud. I think it's, hole number 6 is that par 5, like way uphill. Let's do this and then look at hole number 7. I just want to make sure that we're putting it through all of its paces with everything that we can see. But overall, as we look at these last, few little bits here, I'm impressed. I think SurfThing is looking to deliver a turnkey product, and that's what's key to understand is that, superior customer support, a machine built specifically for a golf simulator. So if you're looking for a golf simulator computer that is built, purposely built, I should say, that's what they're going for. So, you know, it's a big difference between just searching budget, and someone that's especially a commercial golf simulator facility. And as I mentioned before, you know, feel free to reach out to me. You know, my partners that build custom packages and everything, they can give you guys options like SurfThing. So I think that it's really cool. They've been using them for a while because they're trusted. The components are quality. You know, they're going to last. I mean, the fact that they're made to be run 24/7 is a really big deal. And as you can see, even on the par 3, you know, that little small movement, no problem whatsoever. Let's just place a ball really quick, maybe down here, get ourselves just kind of with some weeds. And then, like I said, see how you're getting full FPS until you drop it, and then it drops down. That's so interesting how they do that. Let's look at 18. 18 is such a cool hole. How do you leave that out? I mean, that is just classic with the ocean and everything, all those details. We'll do one more flyover for you guys. And I want to make sure that you guys comment below, you know, questions that you have, you know, what's your experience with computers? You know, anything that you've run into, best practices. You know, I love you guys sharing all that stuff with the community. So, you know, I'm very, very happy. I think that this series, this 5802 model number, is going to give you tons of headroom. So let me know what you guys think. I appreciate you guys watching. And as always, stay tuned. We'll have a lot more coming soon.